welcome everyone here today. We're here because the world's population is expected to get up to about 9 billion by 2050. And that human activity and that desire for economic development is straining our planet's resources and threatening the health of the environment and the ability to thrive. That's why we're here. I'm Iain Stewart. I'm lucky enough to have a visiting professor role in environmental studies at Ashoka University, and I'm a geoscience communicator. And as Professor Sarkar mentioned, their communication is a critical part of the function of 3CS. So the reality that confronts us is that climate change, environmental degradation, biodiversity loss, associated health impacts will present mounting development risks to India as it will to many parts of the world. And addressing such acute planetary concerns will require decision makers and business leaders, the wider public, to make informed choices for a more sustainable future. And those choices relate to how we grow our food, how we build our homes, how we treat our environment, how our cities work, and how our communities interact with our government. So they're sprawling across multiple disciplines. And wise decision-making around these complex issues ought to be based on sound science. But while scientific advances provide us with more information, more data than ever before on our disruption of the Earth system, the pace at which society takes action to manage that disruption lags far behind. There is a crippling lack of political urgency globally. So addressing that acute deficit will require our best science, our science and research about the state of the planet and its ecological and environmental support systems, to be integrated with our best understanding of how to communicate that science, to bring our collective knowledge and wisdom to bear on public attitudes and behaviours on one hand and political policy making on the other. So tackling this urgent communication challenge will be a central remit of the 3CS Research Centre, as you've heard, and indeed is a key cornerstone of this inaugural Healing Earth Conference. So tomorrow it's going to be One Health, exploring global and Indian perspectives on the pandemic and related health concerns, led by the Director of the Wellcome Trust, Sir Jeremy Farrar. But today it's all about one planet, going from global and Indian perspectives on climate change to examining these impacts in detail at the city and community level. And finally, we'll wrap up with a critical debate on how best to communicate, to get these messages effectively out to people and places whose meaningful action can make them happen. So to get us started, really, it's an absolute delight to introduce Tim Lenton. Tim is Professor of Climate Change and Earth System Science at the University of Exeter and Director of its Global Systems Institute. He's got over 20 years of research experience in studying the Earth as a system, developing and using models to understand its behavior. So I guess he's particularly interested in how the life has shaped the planet in the past and written, several popular science books on the lessons that we can draw from this, and as we proceed to reshape the planet now. Tim also leads, and we'll probably come back to this later, the University of Exeter's Climate Change MOOC. For those of you in the know, that's a massive open online course, and it's got tens of thousands of learners that's been through its system really since 2014. To introduce Tim's specific talk, one of the things that we've really heard a lot about the climate change in the last few years is, last 20 years really, is tipping points. So tipping points are these critical thresholds that small changes can lead to dramatic shifts in the entire system. And the fact that we've heard about them really owes a lot to the work of Tim and his co-workers over the years. Tim says that the rate at which we appear to be approaching several tipping points in the climate system is now ringing alarm bells. But, and I think this is a quote, most of our current generation of politicians are just not up to the leadership task. That's maybe something we'll come back to later on in the Q&A. He talks about the pandemic may have caused a shock to the system and triggered what he refers to as positive social tipping points.